What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Gsluke here with our DFS live stream for the round 2 for this week's BMW Championship. Oh boy, am I glad it's a no-cut event. Had some guys who went out there, did the thing today. Rory McIlroy, Scotty Scheffler made a ton of birdies. I like what I'm seeing on that end, but plenty of guys who blew up who, if it were a 2-round cut, they would have no shot at making it. A Siwoo Kim, a Luke List come to mind, Tony Finau, for example, but it's the first quarter. That's how these no-cut events work. I've been in the opposite position before, leading after the first day, and by round 4 after Sunday, I pretty much lost my hat that week. I've also been on the flip side, kind of like this week, where it starts off a little bit hairy, and because we have all 72 holes, everything is fine and merry by Sunday. So we'll have to see. Just remember, no matter how well you're doing right now or how bad you're doing right now, a lot is going to change. You're going to have guys that move way up the leaderboard, way down the leaderboard. So just, hey, understand that even if somebody like a Tony Finau shot like +6, +7 today, he could very well still cash you lineups by the end of the weekend. Now, is he going to be in the optimal? Probably not, right? So you got to have a little bit of realism there. Not going to be all optimism. Guys like that are probably not going to win you a GPP, but hey, if you're the single entry, that sort of thing, you are far from dead. Let's go ahead and move on to this slate, though. Talk about what we expect to see tomorrow, because we learned a lot today. There's a reason why I didn't play round 1 Showdown. It would be a guessing game at best. And we definitely at least have some sort of an edge here, because you can see when we split this by the morning versus the PM wave, there was a massive difference. In fact, a 0.8 shot difference. Now, for my 4-round lineups, I only stacked about 10% in either direction, so it wasn't a massive stack. But clearly, if you were on the AM wave today, I think you're doing pretty well right now, but I don't really think anyone out there was on that. It didn't look like there was going to be a massive difference. And most of the difference here was not due to the wind. The wind today was relatively flat. We expected that, just right around a 4-mile-an-hour difference between the morning and the afternoon wave. And for tomorrow, it's a little bit more pronounced. You can see just 2 miles an hour all the way up until 11, right around 12. It kicks up to right around 5-mile-an-hour winds. In the afternoon, you do have 10 to 12 miles an hour of sustained winds. So it's a little bit of a larger difference. But this 4-mile-an-hour difference today resulted in a 0.8 shot difference. So it clearly wasn't just the wind. It was a lot due to the receptiveness of the greens. You heard Willie Z after his round talk about how firm and fast the greens were by the afternoon. They were getting bounces right about waist high, he would say, with his wedges, which, when you're on an extremely damp golf course, when they're receptive out there, you're going to get like a 4 to 5 inch bounce, not something like 3 to 4 feet. Like you were seeing Willie Z talk about. So it was a lot more difficult because of that. It was harder to spin the ball close. And anytime you're on pristine greens, it's going to be, much higher putting numbers to begin with. But anytime you're adding in the firmness factor and trying to get the ball close, that's when you're going to get a split like this, right? A 4-mile-an-hour wind difference isn't going to cause a 0.8 shot difference. So when we look at the weather here for Friday, like I mentioned, it's a little bit more pronounced. I would expect a similar type of split, right? Maybe 0.7, 0.8 shots, something around there, mostly due to the receptiveness, but also a little bit due to the, firmness of the greens that you saw there too. Let's go ahead and move on to the player pool. I do have quite a few guys I want to feature here for this video. We'll also go ahead and catch up on chat. They have Rageous down there. What is going on? Louis also played Luke List this week. Yeah, I'm with you there, boss man. I played him in, 10% of my lineups. So I didn't go crazy on Luke List, but hey, like I mentioned, you can have a horrible performance round 1, and especially for somebody at 6K, still end up cracking a near optimal lineup. I mean, Luke List at 6K, you probably need, I don't know, it's too early to say, probably like 18 to 20 birdies to get close to the optimal lineup. He's definitely capable of getting there. You have Martin down there. What's going on, Martin? Hopefully you're doing well. Mark says, why didn't you talk me off of Tony Finau? I thought we were friends. Dude, it's golf. Like I mentioned, guys can have bad rounds. He shot 14 straight rounds in the 60s. I mean, if you expected him to go out there and have a bad day today, then you're Nostradamus, boss, man. You're like the one guy in human history that was like, Tony Finau's really going to have a bad day today. Get out of there with that, Mark. You're acting like a clown right now, to be honest with you, boss. Why didn't I talk you off of him? Because he was a good play. Playing him was a good idea. A lot of sharp people played Tony Finau this week. That's why I didn't talk you off of him, because I'm not a jackass. That's why I didn't talk you off of him. Louis says, I had Rory first-round leader in win 80-1. You were excited, then the +3 killed you. He's still in a great position to win the tournament. Sway says Luke List lost 9 strokes putting. It was 8.5. Yeah, he lost It's one of the worst performances I can remember. Now, I didn't go through my database to see if it was the worst ever round. It has to be up there. I mean, he lost 8.5 strokes putting. He gained over a stroke off the tee, was a marginal gainer on approach, and even, I believe, was a slight gainer around the green. So 3 out of the 4 shots gained categories, he was a gainer, and he shot +8 today, or +7, whatever it was. Just ridiculous stuff. So yeah, Soy McThunder, it's impressive, but hey, maybe he'll have a solid performance tomorrow. Mighty says, good afternoon, all. Great start so far. Yeah, I agree, especially for my guys up top. I'm not worried about Luke List, and I kind of want to have this spiel right now. If you're worried about your lineups after today, you're a complete jackass. You're a complete slapdick. It's like sweating lineups after the first quarter of an NFL game because there is no cut this week. It's irrelevant. I don't want to say it's irrelevant because it's an 18-hole sample size. It's 25% of the event. It's not irrelevant, right? It's 25% of the result. But if you're treating it like your week's over because of one player, somebody who shot over par, like a Davis Riley, right? He had a bad day today. I know a lot of people probably had him out there. Luke List, right? He's somebody who I talked up this week. I played this week. You're a jackass if you think your week's over. I just want to go ahead and say that right now. It's like people in football Showdown who after the first quarter, they have like a receiver who scores 2 touchdowns and they think they won the Showdown slate. Like, oh, look, I'm winning $2,000 in my DK account right now. Yeah, because they've played 15 minutes of an NFL game, right? Get your head out of your ass, right? Whether you're in a good situation or a bad situation right now, I wouldn't be counting your winnings or your losses at this point. That's just what I got to say there. Louis says the no cut thing is swung me to a scrubber too. Yeah, that's definitely. Yeah, I know you were, Mark. I've just got to give you shit for that. Right, you had him in 13 laps. I had him in a lot more than that, Mark. So I'm hearing a lot more on Tony Finau than you. Let me think. I had him in 35%, so I had him in 52 lineups. I had him in quite a few myself. So he says you were kidding about List too. Yeah, dude. I wasn't giving you shit about that, Sway. I know you know the Luke List experience. Actually, today he drove the ball 350 into the first fairway, and I was talking to a few of my buddies today in a group chat, and I was like, hey, he's 100% bogeying this hole. I was like, I'm mentally prepared for him to hit the green, put it up there to like 10, 20 feet, and then 3-putt. He did exactly that. On the next hole, he hit the green. He 3-putted. So that's 2 holes, right? 2 3-putts. On the third hole, he hit a ball to 6 feet for birdie on the par 5. Missed that. On the next hole, he missed the green. And of course, that's a bogey, right? He's not going to get up and down in 1 putt. I knew it was going to be a bad day for List at that point. He's kind of a momentum type of player where if he makes one of those early birdies, he gets a good break going, he's going to have a nuclear round. Like if Luke List tomorrow goes out there and he makes a birdie in his first 3 holes, like watch out. Like he's probably going to shoot 5 or 6 under par. But if he goes out there and he 3-putts the first hole, you probably know how the rest of the day is going to go. So that's what I'll say about Luke List. He's an absolute madman. Let's go ahead and talk through these players, though. Stop talking about Luke List, who, let's see, is he? I don't have him on here. I am playing him tomorrow, by the way. I'll give you that one pick, but he's not going to be one of the featured picks here. Let's talk about Rory McIlroy. I'm going right back to the well. That triple bogey towards the end took his ownership projection from over 30% back down to 25%. I was expecting him to be unbelievable chalk. I mean, 30, 35, maybe even 40% owned tomorrow, depending on the contest. He's teeing off in the morning. He played, to this golf course, he's playing it perfectly, right? That distance off the tee I was talking about is clearly a massive weapon for him. He's hitting the ball to within 60, 70 yards of greens. And I know tomorrow morning, it's going to be a little bit more receptive, a little bit more damp out there. So he's not going to be hitting it quite as far. He might have 70, 80 yards into those greens rather than 50 or 60, but just because of the extra rollout that he was getting with his round today, but still in a great position to go out there and score. Early in the morning, it was a lot of shorter hitters that were having success. I think a lot due to that run out they weren't getting. It was a lot more about just hitting the fairway, like going ahead and bombing it out there. But the one thing that Rory McIlroy can do is hit fairways and bomb it out there. You saw that asset for him today, was bombing it on the par 5s, plenty of the par 4s. Like I mentioned, he was up there green side off the tee. He's got the type of skill set that we're looking for here. And I'm not going to jump off ship. Like I mentioned, the ownership being a little bit lower is probably a good thing for Rory McIlroy. I know I kind of made that joke earlier. I was like, hey, Rory McIlroy, right? Him making that triple, maybe it's a good thing, right? We can actually play him for Showdown tomorrow, because if he was -6, if he was going to be 40% owned, there's no chance I'm playing him. I'm not going to put him in 100% of my Showdown lineups. It's a single round sample size. I'm a madman when it comes to my 4-round stuff. I bet over $1,000 on Rory McIlroy to win this week. But in a single round sample size, I'm a little bit more hesitant to go out there and do that sort of thing. That's why I didn't bet him to be first round leader or something like that. He's more than capable of doing so, but anything can happen over an 18 round sample size. So I'm going to be playing him there at 25%. You can take him in half your lineups, get leverage. So something I'm looking to do. Next up, we've got Matt Fitzpatrick there at $9,100. I like what we saw today. I mean, he was hitting fairways, hitting greens, wasn't making a ton of putts, yet still posted a really nice score. I believe 2 under par by the end of the day, which, compared to the average, was about a stroke better than what you saw for the rest of the field. But more importantly, he's in the advantageous conditions. We'll be going off early, just like a Rory McIlroy. He's $9,100. I have him at just 13% projected ownership. So despite having a pretty decent round, I don't expect that many people to get to him. There's just a bias against playing him. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the fact that he's not American. He always comes in lower owned than he should be. Maybe it's because he wears braces. He looks like a 14-year-old child from time to time. All of those things are fair critiques of Matt Fitzpatrick. But at $9,100, in terms of the skill set fit, I think he checks all of the boxes we're looking for. So I'll be on him for tomorrow. He has the advantageous conditions. Don't have to overthink it too much, right? He's our number 5 total mono ranking. Clearly somebody who the stats back up going into the week. And if we're going to get an edge from the weather perspective, I think it's an even better spot to smash. Next up, we got Victor Hovland, who today, he just couldn't do anything with the irons. In fact, the last time I checked, he was through like 14 holes. He had lost over 2.5 strokes on approach, which is definitely a problem. Like, that's concerning, right? If you see that for pretty much anybody, it's going to be a red flag, but particularly for Victor Hovland, who is such a great iron player. So you might be questioning why I'd want to play him, but it's a single round sample size. I understand that guys are going to go out there and not have their best stuff, because if you've ever played golf before, I think you're very familiar with how golf works. You can go out there, make every putt one day look like Tiger Woods, and the next day look like Luke List, right? And lose nearly 9 strokes putting. Everything is in the cards. And even if you're a professional golfer, everything is in the cards. So I'm willing to overlook that, particularly when the shots gain metrics coming in were just outrageously good for Victor Hovland. Again, gaining over 3/4 of a stroke per round on approach, close to half a stroke per round off the tee. I look at those numbers with a lot more confidence than what we saw for a single round sample size, right? Like what we saw here on Thursday. He's more than capable of turning that around. Now, does that mean he's guaranteed to? Absolutely not, right? He could very easily come out there, be in a funk, but he's going to be 10.8% projected owned. He's going to be overlooked because of how he played today. Not half as owned as what he was for 4-round stuff, but right around like 30-40% less in terms of his total ownership. So I like that at 10.8%. $8,600. He's also a little bit more affordable than what we had for 4-round contests. All of these things play into his advantage. Next up, we've got Hideki at $7,900. And I didn't want to play him for 4-round contests because of the withdrawal risk, right? So tomorrow morning, he's going off early, and this is a reason why I'm willing to play him, is we'll probably know, and I say probably because there's always the off chance that he's an asshole. It doesn't give us forewarning, but we should know before lock if he's going to play or not, right? If he's going to withdraw, he's, I believe, one of the first like 5 to 10 groups out. So he's going to be on the range right around lock. So hopefully we get that message if he withdraws. But if he's playing, I have him at 7% projected owned, and he's $7,900. $7,900 for Hideki Matsuyama. Are you kidding me? And he's 7% owned. I mean, a lot of that is because I think people will be scared to play him, right? But sometimes you got to nut up and play people, right? He played round 1. I'm, going to put a lot into that. He looked pretty damn good today too. The passes looked like they were free. It didn't look like he was flinching. It didn't look hurt after shots. A lot of his iron play, especially on a few par 3s, he hit it to like 4 or 5 feet. It's the Hideki Matsuyama that we're used to seeing. And if he's even remotely healthy, even if he hasn't practiced much over the last month, he's still $7,900. He's still single digit owned, right? Count me in. So I'm going to be there on Hideki, but if you're playing him, fair warning, make sure you wake up early to get that withdrawal news in case it happens. Keith Mitchell, very similar player from a skill set standpoint to somebody like a Rory McIlroy. Both played well at Quail Hollow, which is my number 1 comp course this week. And even with Luke List, Luke List played great from tee to green. From a ball striking perspective, they're like identical golf courses, right? So, Luke List, I wish he could fucking putt, right? But Keith Mitchell, right, fits into that same type of mold. long off the tee, great iron player, should be able to set birdie looks up on holes where a lot of other guys might struggle to do so. And he's a good putter historically. Like Keith Mitchell on bent grass is one of the better putters in this field. And today could not make anything for his life. He was kind of shaky with the ball striking stats too. But going off in the morning, 6% projected owned. So, even lower than what we had for 4-round contests. Count me in a buyer on somebody like a Keith Mitchell. I know he shot +3 today, but that's going to keep him a lot lower owned. And we know players are more than capable of a bounce back here in this format. Down into the 6K range now, we've got Seamus Power at $6,700. He was +3 at one point today, was not playing solid golf, was really shaky out there. Ended up even par by the end of the day, shot 3 under for his last 6 holes. I like that type of momentum. Anytime a player gets off to a scratchy start, but is able to claw back by the end, I look at that as a huge positive going into the next round. Good putter on bent grass, a solid ball striker in general. And I mean, at major championships, Seamus Power, just a few weeks ago, think of the Open Championship, guys. He was nearly $7,800. He was up there in the top of the 7K range. Exact price is fleeting my mind right now, but he was chalk. Right? He was nearly 20% owned for a major championship, and he was nearly $1,000 more expensive, maybe even more than 1,000, something in that range. And now he's 2.6% owned at $6,700. I mean, right? It has to be a buy spot. Not much has changed since the Open Championship, right? It's still Seamus Power. He's still pretty damn good player. Somebody who's got a high birdie percentage, right? Why is he 2.6% owned? Why is he 3 times less owned than Emiliano Grillo? I know Grillo had a good round today. I played him in my 4-round lineups. Pretty happy about that. But do I think that he's 3 times more likely to outscore Seamus Power? Absolutely not, right? So that's going to be a pivot that I make all day. Emiliano Grillo, not somebody I'm going to be playing for tomorrow. Cameron Tringale, another high upside play that's super low owned. I'm at 1.9% right now. He's a little bit of a different player. A lot of these other guys, particularly a Keith Mitchell, for example, Hideki Matsuyama, Victor Hovland, they're long players. They're stout players off the tee. They're going to gain significantly in their off the tee categories, whether it's distance or accuracy. Tringale, a lot more of an accuracy over a power guy, but great putter on bent grass, has more than enough ability with the long irons. You've seen him compete at longer golf courses because of that ability to hit his 4 or 5 iron accurately. I like that. I like the fact that he should be extremely low owned, and he's only $6,400. And the last guy we'll talk about before we hop into questions and then making some lineups together, just kind of talking through the strategy on the slate, is Alex Smalley. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about him is I think he's a great example of the types of low-owned pivots that I'm taking down low. And I actually have to give credit to somebody in my Discord today, Da Peach, actually, put me on to looking at guys that are maybe outside the top 30, especially guys that started a little bit rough, that have nothing to lose. Go out there, pin seek, because if you're going to make it into the top 30, you probably need a top 5 finish. Alex Smalley, I believe, is the bubble boy. He was number 68 coming into the week. For him to get into the top 30, he needs, I believe, a tied for 4th or better. And it only can be like 2 or 3 guys tied for 4th, something along those lines. He's -2. He's not going to rest on his laurels, right? He's not going to go out there and try and shoot -2 again. He's looking for something like 6 or 7 under par. And now it's not just Alex Smalley who fits the same type of build. It's a lot of guys here in this range, right? So just to give you an idea, Lucas Glover's like right on the bubble. He has to absolutely go for it. Let's think. Adam Hadwin is probably pretty close to the bubble there. Alex Noren, I know for a fact, is. Scott Stallings, Wyndham Clark is just in the bubble. Keegan Bradley even. You saw that today for Keegan, right? Keegan was like number 67 coming into the week, and now he's inside the top 30 because he's winning the event right now. He clearly had to be aggressive this week, and he played aggressive today. You saw that with his aggressiveness, like with his decision-making, because on one of the par 3s, he hit a ball so close to the water just to get it underneath the hole. He was the only person all day, at least if the announcers were correct. Sometimes they're full of shit. I have to say that. Sometimes Zinger just makes shit up out of his ass, literally. He called Willie Z one of the best putters on the PGA Tour last week. I mean, that's just blasphemous. But at least if they're correct, he was the only one below the hole in the entire field on one of the par 3s, and I made a birdie on it because of it, right? Because he knows he has to go out there and finish in the top 5 or potentially even win this golf tournament to get into the top 30. I'm looking for guys down low in that same boat. Guys that have to be aggressive. Alex Smalley's an example. Kurt Kitayama would be one. Luke List, I believe, was number 54 coming into the week. He fits that same type of build. And I know he's like +7 at this point, right? That gives him even more incentive. He's got to shoot like -20 over the next 3 days to have any shot at making the top 30. Do you think he's just going to roll over? I don't think so. I think he's going to at least try. Right? He's at least going to take aim at every single pin. And he's going off early. It's those type of players that I want to see myself getting to. Up top, I'm looking at that a lot less. I mean, most of the guys here above $8,000, they're not locked into the playoffs, but they're at least close to being locked into the playoffs. So I don't think they have that same type of motivation behind them. I'm just more looking for guys that are going off early, looked solid with the ball striking there in round one, and guys that are mostly good on bent grass, right? Obviously, Hideki, not the best bent grass putter, but he's not really a good putter on any surface. So what we'll do now is we'll catch up on some questions, catch up on chat, and then we'll hop over to the strategy side. So let's see what's going on down there. We have Marcus says, okay, game on. Now I know your humor. Absolutely. Definitely game on. Fair game now. Adam says, Tony couldn't hit a barn door with his banjo today. You have Scott Morikawa, Young, and Neiman. Nice. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, dude, you're going to have guys that don't play well in PGA DFS. I guess we'll talk about this tier too, right? There's a reason why you play more than one lineup, at least if you want a positive experience with PGA DFS. Because if you're going to play like one or even just 5 lineups every week, don't expect to win money. Like if you're going to play in a contest where it's a 150 max and you're entering 5 lineups and there's 80,000 other entries, just reality check, right? You have to finish in the top 15,000, 20,000 entries to end up cashing. You're playing against 80,000 other people, right? If you have 5 entries, 1, 2 of them probably going to cash on average every single week. And Adam, I know you get it, right? Because positive vibes only, you clearly get it. You have guys that are doing well. Don't let that one guy bring you down. You're going to have bad lineups. Unless you locked the guy in every lineup, right? Unless you were a complete jackass and played Tony Finau in every lineup this week, then you probably have something to bitch about. You probably have a gripe at that point, right? But I'm pretty sure you didn't. I know I didn't, at least. Keegan says, at least Rory didn't make any more birdies to make the first round leader bet feel bad. Yeah, so he wouldn't have got there anyways. So it makes you feel a little bit better there, Keegan. And he said, also, the Luke List experience is like that meme video of Hasbulla on the Hell Ride. 100% it is. There's going to be days where it's great. You're like, Luke List, look at this. Like, I bet him at the Farmers Insurance Open this year, and it was one of the better sports betting experiences, period, that I've ever had. And then there's days like today. Nick says, sorry I'm late. I was cooking dinner. What did you miss? You missed a lot, but hopefully you can go ahead and catch up on that. Mark says, to add the salt into the wound, Finau goes out at 240. Yeah, I'm not playing him in Showdown. Or at least I'm not going to make him. Actually, that's wrong. I am playing him in Showdown, but he's not on the advantageous wave. Right, so I get what you're saying there. Ray Flores says, thoughts on Colin. Okay, let me look at his stats from today because I wasn't that impressed. Let's just say that. Through the first 5 to 6 holes, I don't know. He was kind of just doing his Colin Morikawa thing. He wasn't throwing darts like he was last week to 3 or 4 feet, but let's see if the stats back that up. So give me 1 second here because I don't want to throw him to the curb before I look because clearly he played pretty decently. He shot 4 under par, but I have a feeling it wasn't. Yeah, exactly. He gained 1.7 strokes on approach. Wasn't that crazy. He's number 11 in the field there, so isn't that bad. Number 14 off the tee and number 25 with the putter. It looks sustainable, right? Honestly, I'd probably project him to shoot something like 3 to 4 under par tomorrow. So in cash, I think he makes quite a bit of sense. The issue would be he's going off in the later half of the day, right? So for GPP purposes, I don't think he's got like a 3 shots gained putting round in him. So I don't know if he's going to get to 7 to 8 under par. Whereas Rory McIlroy, John Rahm, for example, let's see, Will Zalatoris is going off early. Same thing with Scotty Scheffler, Matt Fitzpatrick, who we talked about. One of those guys is probably going to take it to 7 to 8 under par tomorrow. So I like those guys a little bit more personally, but hey, I get it. Colin Morikawa is a hell of a consistent player. Mighty says that hole with Bradley over the water, he did just barely cleared it and almost hold it. Yeah, it was a really ballsy shot. And it's those type of players that I really want to take in Showdown because not everyone's going to do that. Like I can guarantee you that Matt Fitzpatrick wouldn't hit that shot. Like that's just completely against his DNA. He's such a consistent, safe type of player. Mark says, my league, I need picks to recover in Showdown. There you go. Well, hey, that's why you're here right now, right? To try and get the picks here for Showdown. Jack says, might not be this week might not be this week or at Eastlake, but just a matter of time before Cam Young wins. Okay. Might even smoke a field by 6 or 7 shots. I agree with that. I think in the fall swing, you get him in a relatively weak field. You get him on a golf course that, his length can be utilized to the fullest extent. I completely agree with you. Now, this week, a lot of people are on him. So I know a lot of people out there probably want him to win. I don't want to say that he can't, but I don't think this is the best course for him. You got to get him on a flatter green golf course. One thing I've noticed about Cam Young, great at hitting balls on his starting line. His putting form is unbelievable, pure putting stroke. He just has an issue with reading greens. I mean, he'll give up on putts as soon as he hits them from time to time. He'll hit it and be like, oh, well, it's too low, and just walk towards it. Jordan Spieth does a similar thing. Jordan Spieth, he always hits that pure putt, but he's walking putts early because he's missing them, right? He's missing his line. So, yeah, we'll have to see with that, Jack. I agree with you, though. I think he's got a lot of upside. And Mark says, who the hell is Keegan Bradley and who let him on the golf course? Hey, I know who Keegan Bradley is. He's won this BMW Championship before, but I don't know what version of Keegan Bradley this is. He's playing like an absolute madman. Let's go ahead and hop over to Draftkings. What we're going to do is talk through some lineup builds. So we're going to talk through the thought process and actually building my lineups, and for cash and for GPPs, because there are distinct strategies or things that we have to keep in mind for each. So what we're going to do here first is focus on the GPP side. That is most of what we do here. It's the bread and butter when it comes to DFS. And we always are thinking about ownership. We're always thinking about differentiating ourselves, because when you're in a large field contest, and I would say this qualifies as a large field contest, right? 11,000 entries. You have $50,000 to first place. It's a $20 contest. You have to think about ownership, but maybe not nearly as much as an 80,000 entry contest, right? But there's 8 times more entries. So let's go ahead and take Rory McIlroy. He's a piece of chalk. So by taking Rory McIlroy, this will be a good way to show you how I'd navigate using somebody that's using a little bit higher owned. And the best way to do so, and I think, going to our poster child here, Matt Fitzpatrick, is a great way to differentiate. Now, if we were to start with Rory McIlroy and then maybe take Scotty Scheffler as our second man in, I love both plays, both going off early in the morning, you're looking at 25% on nearly both players. So by taking these two with our last 4 spots, we're going to have to be a lot more unique than if we went something like Rory McIlroy, then down to Matt Fitzpatrick. Now that there's only 11,000 entries, I'm pretty confident about this lineup being unique, even if we take quite a few chalky players. So just to give you an idea, let's see. Let's actually just add Matsuyama in there because I like him so much for this slate. Another super low owned player. But with our last 3 spots, we can probably be pretty chalky here. So let's go ahead and take a Keith Mitchell. I mean, he's not going to be super highly owned, but not super low owned. Up here, let's take Taylor Pendrith. I like him quite a bit, going off, I believe, in the first half of the day. And at $7,300, use your imagination, because, hey, I caught myself. I'm not supposed to do whole lineups here for you, right? That's against the DK term of service, but you can use your imagination there, right? Rory McIlroy, Fitzpatrick. Rory's going to be high owned, right? But Fitzpatrick middle owned. Hideki Matsuyama is going to be single digit. Same thing with Keith Mitchell. You can get away with making this type of lineup. But now, if you weren't, let's go ahead and show you what it would look like if you use Scotty Scheffler. Let's say you started with Rory McIlroy. You use Scotty Scheffler as your second man in. Now, because you have a Hideki Matsuyama here, I'm pretty confident you can get away with using both those together. But if you didn't use Hideki, right, then I'd be questioning things. Because if you took an Adam Scott, for example, 25% Rory McIlroy, like 25% on Scotty Scheffler, Adam Scott's probably going to be at least 15% owned because of his round today. I'm kind of having trouble with this one being unique, right? We have $6,700 remaining. And now a lot of these guys aren't going to be super highly owned, but you're cornering yourself into a build, right? All of these guys are at least going to be significantly owned, right? Like they're going to be owned more than 5% of lineups. And when there's 11,000 other entries, let's think about it, at least 50, sometimes close to 100, a few hundred entries at the very least you're dealing with, if not closer to like 500 to 1,000 entries, right? If it's truly significant ownership out there, closer to like 10%, 5%, you got to worry about it a little bit. So I wouldn't just take all the chalk there. I would kind of worry about using these 2 players together. If you're in a single entry, I don't worry about it, right? Because if you're going to end your lineup with Seamus Power and you're only playing against like 300, 400 other entries, a 2% owned Seamus Power means that you're playing against like 8 other entries, right? Because there's 400 entries, 2% ownership. That's like 8 people. Then you don't have to worry about it whatsoever, right? But if you're, 11,000 other entries, it's perhaps a little bit of a different story there. Now let's go ahead and do a single entry lineup. So, I kind of just mentioned what we could do in single entry, but even more so, I like the balanced build. Perhaps starting with the Scotty Scheffler, going to Matt Fitzpatrick as his second man in. Your third man in might even be able to be a Cam Young, right? Because you're being so balanced here, you can take a few guys here in the 8K range. You can take Victor Hovland if you wanted to in this lineup, and you still have $7,000 remaining. That's how soft showdown pricing can be. And when I'm going after a single entry, a 2 to 3 max, that sort of thing, where min caching means a lot more to me than something like in my GPPs, like my $5 GPP. I hate to say that I could care less about min caching, but I really could, right? In the large level GPP, you're looking to get 1 or 2 entries into the top 1% that really make all of your money back for you. All of those $8 entries you're getting back on a $5 entry really don't mean shit. I hate to, hurt people's feelings out there by saying that, but min caching really isn't an accomplishment, right? Maybe for single entry it is, where you're entering a much higher portion of your bankroll, right? You care about that a whole lot more. That's why I like going to this balanced build, taking 6 guys that I feel pretty confident about. Now, if we wanted to show you what this would look like, let's go ahead and put, let's put Munoz in there. And then for your last man in, take your pick at it, right? I don't think you can go wrong. In terms of ownership, you can even take Keegan Bradley if you wanted to, because he's -7. I wouldn't worry about it in a single entry type of build. Now what we're going to do is a cash build. And for cash, it's a completely different mindset. So for GPPs, we were thinking about ownership. For single entries, 2 to 3 maxes, still considering it, but it's not really that important, right? We're not worried about duping all that much. In cash, we want to dupe ourselves. Like at all costs, we want as much ownership as humanly possible. So starting Rory McIlroy, Scotty Scheffler, I don't want to say that it's a must, but it's pretty damn close to it. I would take both of them in almost every cash lineup that you're playing. Let's see, who else is almost a cash game cornerstone? I think Cam Davis at 7,600, because he's teeing off in the morning, is almost a must play for cash. Let's see, towards the top of the 7K range, let's find one more cash lock here. Let's see. Let's sort it by score. It's usually a good way to do this. I guess Adam Scott would be a good idea. Let's just put HV3s in the afternoon, though. I'm trying to take guys that are in the morning, if you couldn't notice, because that's another part of it, right? You want to take advantage of every edge you can get when it comes to cash. I mean, all these guys are like PM waves, so can't really play them. I guess Henley would make a lot of sense. So these would be the 4 cash plays that I'm playing in pretty much every cash lineup I'm getting to. It leaves you with $7,200 remaining, so you can definitely get the job done. In terms of filling out your lineup, I would keep it to guys that shot like 2 to 3 under par and guys that are playing in the morning tomorrow. So make sure that you're getting that 0.7, 0.8 shot edge, and make sure you're taking guys that are going to be relatively popular. I mean, just off the top of my head, I think Griot's in the morning, at least if memory serves me correctly. Let's see. Aaron Wise should be playing in the morning. Adam Hadwin's a morning wave type of dude. Alex Spalia's. Those are the type of guys I'd consider using in a cash build. So that's all I've got here for the live stream. Going to keep it short, sweet, to the point, concise, just give you the information you need, but nothing else extra. Going to do the same for rounds 3 and 4. I'll remind you, if you're looking for all of my projections, not just the guys that I'm talking about on stream, including ownership for every player in the field, whether they're in my player pool, access to the community Discord, that is all available on the Patreon page. There is a link down below of the video to go ahead and check that out. It is $10 a month. I'd highly recommend it. If you haven't already, because if you want access to the guys that I'm actually playing, that's the best way to do so. And if you're playing Showdown, you need to have accurate Showdown ownership projections. And I believe I might be the only person in the industry that does them, at least on a consistent basis. So if you're looking for that, I highly recommend you check it out. And like I mentioned, going to have a prize picks video tonight, also throughout the weekend, and the rest of the Showdown streams too. So best of luck with all of your lineups here. Let's see if there's any questions. We'll go ahead and finish it up on that. So if you do have any questions, I meant to mention that. We can touch on them there. It looks like there's a few down there. Let's see what we've got. And you said you were excited there if I were going to give all 6. I know you would like it. I think you guys could probably figure out who I would have taken there too. Just DraftKings wouldn't like it. DraftKings might give me a little bit of shit for that. Mark says they moved Stallings up to 7K. He was $6,600. That's interesting. I think that's a lot due to ownership. Ray just says Siwoo. Actually, let's look at how my boy Siwoo did, right? He didn't play well today, but I want to look at his stats because it was really just one blow up hole for Siwoo. I'm interested because he's a Showdown legend, Siwoo Kim, that's for sure. Lost 3 strokes on approach. Hey, Regis, that's all you, boss, but I'm not going to be there on Siwoo Kim. That's all I've got, boss man. Thanks for everyone who stopped by. Make sure to go ahead and smash that like button before you got out of here. And hey, Zach, I'm going to shout you out there. I see you down there in chat. Hopefully you're doing well. And Nick Mars, with the dad joke of the evening, says, my 6 of 6 percentage is looking great after day one. Hey, me too. Thumbs up, everybody. Great weekend, and let's get this cash.